Welcome back to Pop Culture Pulse. You know, we love to dig into all things gaming, and today we're diving into a real head-scratcher.
Yeah, Remedy Entertainment.
Remedy, known for their amazing single-player stories like Control and Alan Wake.
Right. Those really get you thinking.
They do. But their newest project, well, it has us all wondering what direction they're heading in.
It's definitely a curveball.
It is.
Yeah.
Their upcoming game, FBC.
Firebreak.
Big departure for them.
Big, huge.
Yeah.
Instead of those dark psychological thrillers.
Yeah, those super immersive experiences.
Exactly. They're going for something totally different. Colorful three-player co-op action.
You see that in the trailer and you're like, wait, is this really Remedy?
I know. I was so surprised when I saw it. It's set in the Control universe, goes back to the oldest house.
Oh, cool. So we're back in that world.
We are, but this time we see 3 characters in these environmental suits.
Yeah, what's with the suits?
Right. And they're blasting away at enemies with these crazy abilities.
It's wild. And for Remedy, it's a pretty big shift. Think about their past games, Alan Wake, Control, even Quantum Break, all about atmosphere exploration.
Weaving those intricate stories through little details and symbolism. It's their signature.
Totally. So this move to multiplayer, I mean, it really makes you think they want to experiment.
For sure, maybe even challenge themselves creatively. You know, step outside their comfort zone.
Absolutely. It makes you wonder what made them change direction. I mean, they've built this reputation on these deep single-player experiences.
Right. They're known for that.
Yeah, so what does it mean for them to step into a genre that's so different?
It's a good question. From what I've gathered, the team at Remedy just wanted to shake things up, try something completely new.
Interesting.
Yeah, they've talked about expanding their horizons and reaching a different audience.
I see. Makes sense. They want to grow.
Exactly. And you can't blame them for wanting to explore,
New creative avenues.
Yeah, exactly.
For sure. Well, I'm curious to see how they handle this transition, especially a narrative. I mean, their storytelling is what makes their game so captivating.
Right, it's what hooks you.
Totally. So how do you think they'll approach that in a multiplayer setting?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? They've said FBC, Firebreak will focus more on world building and action.
Okay, so less on traditional storytelling.
Right. But knowing Remedy, I wouldn't be surprised if they find a way to weave in some cool storylines and lore elements.
Yeah, they always find a way.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's break down what we know about the game itself. FBC, Firebreak, and for anyone who hasn't played Control.
Right, gotta catch everyone up.
Exactly. FBC stands for the Federal Bureau of Control.
The heart of that game.
Yes. What can you tell us about the gameplay in FBC Firebreak?
Well, we know it's going to be a fast-paced first-person shooter. You and 2 other players take on the role of FBC first responders.
Okay, so like a specialized task force.
Yeah, equipped to deal with all the weird stuff that happens in the oldest house.
The altered world events.
Exactly.
Cool. The trailer showed off some pretty awesome abilities. What
Mm.
were those? They looked familiar, but not exactly like the altered items from Control.
Yeah, good eye. They're calling them paranatural augments.
Paranatural augments.
Catchy, right? It seems like they're modified altered items engineered specifically for combat and tactical use.
So they're taking that core concept from Control
Right.
and adapting it for a more action-oriented co-op experience.
Exactly. It's a clever way to tie the game back to the Control universe while introducing new gameplay mechanics.
I can definitely see that.
Yeah.
So how will these augments work? I mean, in Control, altered items were all about manipulating the environment and using telekinesis.
Yeah, you could do some crazy stuff.
You could. Will these augments be similar?
It's hard to say just from the trailer, but you can see hints of telekinesis, energy manipulation, even some temporal distortion.
Whoa, time stuff.
Looks like it. It seems like they're taking those core concepts from Control and adapting them.
Gotcha. So more action-oriented.
Yeah, more co-op focused.
Right. It makes me wonder, how will these augments work in a team setting? Will players have to coordinate to be successful?
That's what I'm really interested in. The potential for strategy and teamwork is huge. Imagine players combining their augments.
Well, pulling off crazy combos.
Exactly. Or setting up tactical plays that need perfect timing and coordination. It could add a whole new layer to the gameplay.
That's awesome. It would definitely make for some exciting moments and encourage players to experiment with different team setups and strategies.
Absolutely. And don't forget about the narrative implications. By focusing on the FBC's first responders, we're getting a whole new perspective on the oldest house.
So we might learn about incidents that weren't in Control.
Maybe encounter new types of altered items, or even uncover secrets about the Bureau itself.
It's like we're seeing a different side of the Control universe. one that's more focused on the action and the everyday struggles of dealing with the paranormal.
Exactly. It's like peeling back another layer of that world. And remember, this is Remedy. They're masters at environmental storytelling.
Oh yeah, the symbolism, the hidden details.
Exactly. They love hiding secrets in plain sight.
So even if the story isn't told in a traditional way, I wouldn't be surprised if the game is packed with cryptic messages, Easter eggs,
Lots of hidden lore for fans to dig into.
for sure. It'll be all about paying attention to those details, exploring every corner and piecing together the clues.
Absolutely. That's part of the fun.
It is. Okay, so we've talked about the genre shift, the gameplay, and the potential for narrative depth.
Right.
But there's one more thing we need to address, the live service aspect.
Ooh, yeah, that's a big one.
It is. A lot of gamers are wary of that model, especially with multiplayer games.
And for good reason. But Remedy has been very clear that FBC Firebreak won't be your typical live service game.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah, they've emphasized that it's designed to be a more relaxed experience.
So no pressure to constantly grind or log in every day.
Exactly. They'll have
Yeah.
regular content updates and unlockables, but without that feeling of obligation.
That's a relief.
Yeah.
It seems like they're taking a more player-friendly approach, focusing on creating a sustainable and enjoyable experience that doesn't feel like a second job.
It's a smart move, especially for a studio known for its narrative-driven games. They're saying, hey, we're offering a new way to experience the Control universe.
But we're not going to force you to change how you play games.
Right.
I like that. So to recap FBC, Firebreak is a standalone 3-player co-op shooter set in the Control universe. It features fast-paced action.
Those unique paranatural augments inspired by altered items.
Yes, and a promise of a more relaxed approach to content updates. But the big question everyone's asking is, how will this new multiplayer format affect the Control narrative as a whole?
It's a fascinating question. On one hand, you have Control's deeply atmospheric world.
Right, driven by exploration mystery, those incredible narrative twists.
And on the other hand, you have FBC Firebreak, which seems to emphasize action and co-op gameplay. So how do you bridge those two experiences?
Exactly. Will the story take a backseat to the action? Or will they find some innovative way to weave storytelling into this multiplayer format? What do you think?
Well, that's what I'm most curious about. And honestly, I think it comes down to how Remedy uses the strengths of multiplayer.
What do you mean by that?
Think about it. In a single-player game, the story is mostly predetermined. The player follows a set path, sees events in a specific order.
And reaches a pre-written ending.
Exactly. But in multiplayer, there's this element of unpredictability. You can't control everything.
Right, because you have multiple players interacting with the world and each other.
Precisely. And I think that's where the real potential for FBC Firebreak lies. Instead of forcing a traditional narrative onto a multiplayer framework.
They can embrace that chaos and emergent storytelling.
Yeah.
So instead of a linear story, we might get something more like interconnected events, character interactions, and world-building details that players can piece together and interpret in their own way.
Exactly. It's like they're creating a sandbox for players to explore and make their own stories within.
Yeah.
And knowing Remedy, I'm sure they'll fill that sandbox with mysteries, cryptic clues, and hidden lore.
Oh, yeah. To keep us all theorizing
Yeah.
long after we finish the game.
Absolutely.
I love that idea. It would definitely make for a more dynamic and replayable experience. It's like turning players into active participants in the storytelling.
And don't forget about those emergent narratives. Players working together, strategizing, reacting to unexpected situations.
That's where those really memorable gaming moments come from.
For sure.
I agree. And I think Remedy gets that. They've always been great at making games that encourage player choice and exploration.
Absolutely. And if they can bring that philosophy to multiplayer FBC, Firebreak could be something truly special.
It could redefine what we expect from a multiplayer narrative.
Exactly.
You've definitely got me excited to see what they come up with. I have a feeling FBC Firebreak is going to be way more than just a simple spin-off. It could be a whole new chapter for the Control universe.
And for Remedy as a studio.
For sure.
It's a bold move for sure, but it's incredibly exciting. And who knows, maybe this is just the beginning. Maybe Remedy's testing the waters, seeing how players respond to this new direction.
I can't wait to find out, and I'm sure our listeners are just as eager as we are to see what Remedy has in store for us.
Well, we'll have to wait until 2025 to see the final product.
Huh.
But in the meantime, I think it's safe to say FBC Firebreak has the potential to be a real game changer.
A game changer indeed.
Picking up where we left off, let's dig a little deeper into what FBC Firebreak could mean for the Control universe. We talked about Remedy using this game to explore a different side of the oldest house.
Right, like a different perspective on that world.
Yeah, and I think that shift in perspective could open up some really cool narrative avenues. Like
That's
imagine,
thought.
okay, so imagine we see the FBC dealing with smaller, more localized, altered world events, ones that didn't escalate into something like the Hiss invasion.
That's interesting. So like smaller contained incidents.
Yeah, exactly. It will let Remedy explore different types of threats, new altered items.
Maybe even different factions within the Bureau.
Exactly. Think about it.
Yeah.
Your team of first responders stumbles upon a rogue agent.
Ooh, rogue agent.
Yeah, someone corrupted by an altered item.
That's a cool idea.
Or maybe you find a secret lab where the FBC was experimenting on objects of power.
Oh man, that reminds me. The trailer showed a garden gnome.
Remedy loves those.
They do. But it was in such a weird place. It makes me wonder if objects of power will play a big role in FBC, Firebreak, or if they'll just be Easter eggs.
It's hard to say for sure, but knowing Remedy, I wouldn't be surprised if they're more than just set dressing.
Yeah, they love to hide meaning in everything.
Right. They could be woven into the gameplay. Maybe some augments are powered by objects of power, or there are missions where you have to secure dangerous objects.
I like that. It would tie the game even closer to Control. And they could introduce new objects of power.
Expand the lore.
Give players something new to discover.
Exactly. Speaking of lore, I'm curious about the timeline of FBC. Firebreak, will it be before, during, or after Control?
Good question. The oldest house is still there in the trailer.
So it can't be too far in the future.
Right. But they said it's a standalone game. So they do have some wiggle room with the timeline.
A prequel would be so cool.
I agree. We could see the FBC in its early days.
Maybe even the origins of the Hiss invasion.
Learn how they first encountered the Altered World event. How they figured out how to deal with objects of power.
We could even get some backstory on characters like Trench or Darling.
Ooh, yeah, that would be awesome.
It would give us a chance to see a different side of the FBC. You know, in Control, they're already super secretive and paranoid.
Right, shrouded in mystery.
Exactly. A prequel could show them when they were more idealistic, before the Hiss invasion changed everything.
So we could see how their idealism crumbled as they faced these increasingly dangerous threats.
Yeah, it would add another layer of tragedy to the Control story.
And they could foreshadow events from Control. Create dramatic irony for players who already know the story.
Imagine this, you encounter a seemingly harmless object of power in FBC, Firebreak.
Okay.
And then later you learn that same object caused a huge disaster in Control.
Oh, wow, that would be chilling.
Right. It would make the two games feel even more connected.
Yeah, like everything's part of a bigger plan.
Exactly. And it would make players want to revisit both games, looking for those little connections and hints.
Speaking of connections, what if FBC Firebreak ties into Control too?
Whoa, hold on.
I know, it's a big thought.
It is, but think about it. Remedy's already confirmed that Control 2 is in development.
So it's not impossible.
Right. What if events in FBC Firebreak directly impact the sequel?
That would be mind-blowing. It would turn FBC Firebreak into a crucial part of the Control story.
Imagine playing through FBC Firebreak and meeting a character who later becomes super important in Control 2.
Oh, that would be cool. Or maybe the choices you make in FBC. Firebreak changed the world of Control too.
It would make both games feel even more significant and connected, like they're two sides of the same coin.
I'm starting to think of FBC Firebreak as more than just a multiplayer experiment. It could be how Remedy bridges the gap between Control and its sequel.
Yeah, expands the lore, introduces new characters and ideas.
That's the stage for something even bigger.
Exactly. And think about the fans. All the theories and discussions, the collaborative efforts to uncover secrets. This game could reignite the passion for the Control universe.
I can see that happening. It's like Remedy's opening the doors to the oldest house even wider and inviting players to explore its mysteries in a whole new way.
And we get to be a part of it. It'll be amazing to see how the community reacts to this new direction.
Will they embrace the multiplayer aspect? Will they find all the secrets? Remedy's hidden?
Only time will tell, but I think it's going to be a wild ride.
I agree. And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up part 2 of our deep dive into FBC. Firebreak. Okay, so we've talked a lot about FBC, Firebreak, the genre shift, the gameplay, the story possibilities. But I think it's time to zoom out. Look at the bigger picture. What does this game mean for Remedy as a studio?
It's a bold move, no question. Remedy's built their reputation on those carefully crafted single-player experiences.
Like those deep narratives.
Exactly. So jumping into multiplayer, especially a genre like co-op shooters, it's a big risk.
It really is. Makes you wonder why take that chance. They could have stuck with what they know what works.
I think it shows their ambition, their desire to push boundaries and challenge themselves creatively. And let's be real, the gaming world is always changing.
It's true. What's popular today might be old news tomorrow.
Exactly. Studios can't afford to stand still. They have to adapt, experiment, find new ways to connect with players.
I see what you mean. So FBC, Firebreak could be Remedy's way of branching out,
Right.
attracting a wider audience.
Yeah.
Maybe even setting the stage for future projects that blend single-player and multiplayer in new ways.
Exactly. It's like they're saying, hey, we're not afraid to try new things, to experiment with different genres, different gameplay styles.
It's a statement for sure.
It is. And who knows, maybe this opens up a whole new creative path for them.
Imagine that Remedy creating games that seamlessly blend their amazing storytelling with the excitement of multiplayer.
The best of both worlds.
Right. It's a pretty exciting thought.
It is. And I think FBC, Firebreak, is a big step towards making that happen. Like,
Okay.
they're testing the waters, learning the ropes of multiplayer development.
Figuring out how to translate their unique style to a new format.
Exactly.
Makes sense. Now, what about their existing fan base? Some fans might be hesitant about this shift to multiplayer, worried that it'll take away from Remedy's strength as storytellers.
Yeah, I get that. But I think it's important to remember that Remedy has always been about pushing the boundaries of interactive narrative.
They're innovators.
Right. They're not afraid to experiment, to try new things, to challenge their audience. And let's not forget FBC. Firebreak is still set in the Control universe.
It's still got their DNA.
Exactly. They're not abandoning what they're good at. They're just broadening their horizons, exploring new ways to tell stories and engage players.
And that's something to be excited about.
It is. It's great to see a studio like Remedy taking risks, pushing themselves creatively, trying something different.
I totally agree. If they can pull this off, deliver a multiplayer experience that's both engaging and true to their vision,
It could have a huge impact on the whole industry.
other studios might be inspired to take more risks, experiment more, break away from the usual way of doing things.
Exactly.
Now, before we wrap up, there's one question I keep coming back to. We've talked about the impact on Remedy, on the Control universe, on the industry as a whole. But what about the players? What does FBC Firebreak offer them?
I think at its heart, FBC. Firebreak gives players a chance to experience the Control universe in a totally new way.
Like stepping into that world in a way we haven't before.
Right. It's a chance to be those unsung heroes of the FBC, to explore the hidden parts of the oldest house, and face the unknown with your friends.
To be a part of something bigger, to contribute to the story of the Control universe, and to make your own stories within it.
And let's not forget the fun of playing together, working as a team, coming up with strategies, coordinating attacks, celebrating victories.
Those are the moments that stick with you.
They are?
You've definitely got me thinking about FBC Firebreak in a new light. It's more than just a game. It's a social experience, a shared journey into a world we already love.
And who knows, maybe along the way, players will uncover secrets, solve mysteries, even add to the Control lore.
So many possibilities.
Yeah.
It's what makes FBC Firebreak so exciting. It's a game bursting with potential.
Yeah.
A blank canvas for players to fill with their creativity, their stories, their adventures.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, that about wraps up our deep dive into FBC Firebreak. We've covered a lot of ground, explored a ton of possibilities, and hopefully got everyone thinking about what this game could mean for the future of Control and for Remedy as a studio.
Absolutely. It's still early days, but one thing's for sure, FBC, Firebreak has definitely captured our imaginations.
It has, and we're super eager to see what Remedy has in store for us. So to all our listeners out there, stay tuned for more news and updates on FBC Firebreak. And until next time, keep exploring the unknown, keep questioning the ordinary, and keep your minds open to the possibilities. Because in the world of Control, anything is possible. Thanks for joining us on PopCulture Pulse. We'll catch you next time.